We don't do this. EricHunley has the whole monopoly. I don't know who that son of a bitch thinks he is, that he's got this whole monopoly on getting panels of lawyers together. But we should be doing that on our streams, like way more. I
did this way before him. I had the big brain panel before EricHunley even existed.
And now we have a new panel. I think Joe's on a Jewish holiday. It would have been even better, but he's kind of fallen off the radar.
Yes.
Welcome back, Nick. Where you been?
Oh, my God. I'm going to do the thing that no husband should ever do. I'm going to blame my wife for this. Because I love coming on this show and getting to talk to you, getting to talk to my other friends on Friday mornings. And then she decided to schedule every Friday a family chiropractor appointment at right around noon. And it's like, well, now I can only go on your show if I have nothing going on before that. And sometimes I do have to like drive a kid somewhere or whatever. And then I can only be on for like 45 minutes. So it's really frustrating because
your wife is getting in the way of our relationship, Nick. And
I know I'm going to
have to.
I'm going to have to tell her when she shows up with a black eye, you'll know why.
Oh, great. I'll get blamed for that one.
Monetization status.
That was a joke, YouTube. Oh my gosh. She's wiry and mean. She could beat the crap out of me.
I heard.
Yeah.
I have to ask the question, Nate, I asked you before we started, what are those headphones? And I love the blue neon.
Oh, I've had them for like maybe 6 months, 7 months. Every time we actually come on stream, I wear these. So you say they're new, but I've had them.
I would have noticed. Well, I like them.
I appreciate it. These are Walmart's finest, people.
Oh, well, there you go.
Not paid. Yeah.
Stepping up the game.
Right.
So you went from Dollar General to Walmart for an upgrade?
That's right. My daughter's like, "This is nice."
Eric, are you on Rumble now simultaneously as well? People are.
I am not. I'm going to start doing that, I think, next week. Oh, look at palpitations.
What's that? My wife is calling me. I'll be back. I'm joking.
I do want to say this about Rumble. I know you guys are on Rumble, but my last video that got like 4 million views in 3 or 4 days, it got 100 views on Rumble. How does that happen? I got a video doing a million views a day on YouTube, and it got 100 views on Rumble. I'm like,
for those
it's
who
not even close.
Nate, you got to tell. It's the trans athletes competing in women's sports. I think. Is it unfair? Was the title 5.3 million views in a week?
Dude, it was sick. That is awesome.
It was getting 1 million a day, but I was like, so I'm gonna really kill it on Rumble, and Rumble got nothing. I was like, what the hell happened? They need an algorithm or something over there.
No, well, the interest of the crowd.
Maybe. They have they do have Rumble. I've noticed has been their algorithm is shifting. Like they're developing one in some way, and I think it has to do with their new content tags that they have, or the content types, the categories, because there does seem to be some ability of virality on Rumble where before it was a little bit more difficult. I haven't tapped into this fully. But I've seen other people with like some small channels get some really big views on some videos. And so hopefully that is something that's coming, because that was always the kind of initial struggle with Rumble, was you kind of had to bring your audience with you to get the train rolling. But I think that's starting to change a little bit. But I'll tell you the secret to getting views on Rumble. The other day I did a full live stream, but only my intro video remained uploaded. Like it didn't capture the whole stream. And that thing had 800,000 views of people refreshing. Like, where's the video?
Nate, with the video you just put out, did you cross promote it anywhere, or was that it just got caught up in the algorithm recommendations?
So, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. I called Eric the day. I said, "Yo, Eric, did you see this story about the Canadian guy?" And Eric was like, "Yeah." So I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna do a story. I'm gonna do a video on it." So I do the video, and to be honest with you, when my editor gave it to me, I'm like, this video doesn't look like it's shit, right? It's just, so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna put it out. Now, usually I send my videos to my my members and stuff first. But I thought the video was kind of shit, so I'm like, I'll just send it out, and because they're not missing anything. And as soon as I put it out, it was like the first hour, it got like 10,000 views, which is like, okay. Then after that, it was like 80,000, 100,000 per hour. And it just like blew up. I don't know how it happened. Then it just like went nuclear.
I know. And then I started to hear from people. Did you see Nate's video? Yeah, Nate's got $1 million, $1 million views in a day. How the hell is Nate doing? What on a random topic? It's just so like random. People are contacting me.
That's what YouTube is, man. It's booms and busts as far as like video output. And when you hit it though, oh God, it's great.
Well, it was, the video was doing so well that my daughter's school, her teachers, and because I don't know how they do it, but her teachers and some of her classmates were getting the video like from Nate the Lawyer. They were like, so now I'm like the trans guy. I'm like the trans guy. I'm like, I'm going to be the trans guy. I got like 2 videos on the trans topic, and now I'm the trans guy. But so
is it a woke school?
It's a woke school, yeah.
Oh, have fun with that one.
Yeah.
I'd be going to pick up your kids. I saw your video, Nate.
Oh God.
Your daddy's a very bad man. Oh, hey, how you doing, Nate? No, but it's weird. It has to have gotten like the URL had to have gotten implanted somewhere in an article that itself reached out, because it's amazing. It's just like there's no rhyme or rhythm to why it happens.
I don't know. I think it was timing too, because the only video ahead of his was Jeremy from the Quartering. And honestly, I think Jeremy buried his own video because he has so many out that when I went to find his, I had to go scroll to find the video on the subject. So I think Nate kind of had that lane for a little while. And no matter what he says, I disagree. It is not a shit video. It's a very well edited, excellent video. Perfect timing, everything else. And it went nuts. And then everybody started reacting to Nate's video.
Yeah. So, yeah. But you just never know. It just, it was real, honestly, luck of the draw. I hit the lottery, the YouTube lottery for one time. So,
well, good, and I can bust your balls about it forever.
But if anybody in here, go watch that video. Let me get some more views on it. Get it going again.
Hold on, I'll get the link.
Yeah, drop it in. We can.
Oh, but meanwhile, then you put out the trans women ban from women's divisions. Another one the other day, it's up to 500,000 views.
Yeah,
that one was getting like 100,000 in a couple hours. So yeah. And then Nate's like, okay, well, I'm done with that. I'm like, you're not gonna do one more trans video, Nate? You could do one more trans video. He's like,
this guy wants to.
He's like, no, I want to do Trump. I'm like, no, how about another trans video, Nate? You've kind of got something going here.
I can't. Yeah, I don't want to be the anti-trans guy because they're not even anti-trans videos. I'm just reporting on the news. So I don't know. I think I'm done with the trans.
I want to be the anti-trans guy. Give me all your views.
We already are with Keffels, right?
Oh my God! You're summoning the demon beast. Don't do it, Eric. Don't do it. Nobody needs that in their life.
Oh my God.
Oh, good God. Okay, so I guess there's some things that went on this week, right? Major court findings. Stormy Daniels is ordered to pay money.
600. Yeah, she actually already owes 500,000 to Trump, and the appeals court made her pay another 122,000. So for those of you who don't know, Stormy Daniels sued Trump for defamation and sued him to get out of the NDA. Michael Avenatti was her attorney. She lost both lawsuits bad. On the one lawsuit, she had alleged that someone had attacked her in a parking lot and threatened her on behalf of Trump. Trump came out as like, "Hey, the story's BS. I don't send anybody to attack you, right?" Yeah, that's what she said. She said that she was threatened by a man. She put and Trump said the picture was BS and she was fooling the news. She sued him for defamation. The court said this is a BS defamation suit, and now because the suit was so bad, you got to pay his legal fees because it was such a nonsense suit. So that was $500,000. But then she appealed, and the problem with her appealing is that, well, now you're making him incur more legal fees to fight the appeal. So now at the end of that appeal, it could cost her another $122,000 in legal fees because he had to fight the appeal. But she now says she will not pay $1. She'll rather go to jail first before she pays $1. But I think it's interesting because initially he started off only paying her $130,000 to keep her mouth shut. And now she owes him not only the $1 million because she violated the contract, she also owes him $600,000 in legal fees. So
Nate,
justice,
no. People need to come up with new stories because this is Ilma Gore.
Oh, yeah.
Emma Gore's claim was, and this is Evan Rachel Wood's ex-lover and part of the suit, being sued by Marilyn Manson. But her claim to fame is, guess what? That she made a painting of Trump that represented his dingly bits as tiny, and so somebody beat her up. What a coincidence! Probably in a parking lot or a car or somebody else.
So she's one of the Manson accusers as well.
She is, but she didn't actually have a relationship with him. She got Evan and Rachel Wood to do it. She forged the FBI letter with Evan and Rachel Wood, but Ilma was the primary person behind it, also known as Ashley Gore is her real name. But I just find that funny. So I guess we're waiting for another person to go read the headlines and say, "Oh wait, I was attacked too at random by a fan, supposedly."
Nick, Eric, if you know, she was ordered to pay the money. She hasn't paid anything yet. She has vowed to go to jail before paying him a penny. What's the stat? She's appealing the decision, but thus far, is the payment order not executory?
No, she's lost. So the appeals court came down and said, you've lost. You now got to pay him everything. So she's now saying she will not pay. She'd rather go to jail than pay a dime. So so as of right now, she owes Trump $600,000 as of right now.
Yeah. So she has to get that order enforced, or Trump has to get that order enforced on her, which, that's a whole other process that could lead to even further legal fees if she's too resistant to it. And enforcement of those fees, comes with another round of discovery, effectively. Why aren't you paying? Can you pay? And depending on the state she's in, you can either you can garnish wages, you could potentially put a levy on banks, you could potentially get a lien on property. But is she in California? Stormy Daniels, do we know where?
She sued in New York, Southern District of New York.
Okay, yeah, I don't know their collection stuff, but if you're in a state like Florida or Texas, it's really hard to extract money from people, even if you have a judgment against them. Like in Texas, you can't go after primary residences. You can't go after like a vehicle that they get to keep.
Yeah, you could garnish salary. I mean, I presume she's making money, so she'll be making money for Trump and.
Maybe here's the problem. As we all know, as independent creators who are independently employed, it's really hard to go after self-employment income depending on how it's structured. Yeah. And so if her money, which she's likely been doing this since her pornography days.
You mean she's a contract worker? I'm sorry.
Right.
Self-employed, yeah.
And so if she's a contract worker for her own talent management company, for example, and that the money's going into that management company, the amount of money that she actually extracts from that can be pretty much subsistence. And you don't get to automatically go after the company that you're contracting with. You'd have to pierce a corporate veil, and it's a huge mess to do that stuff. So it can be really, really hard to go after the money of someone who is independently employed, because for a regular like salaried job or an hourly job, yeah, you just get to garnish the wages. It's like 20% over the median income is your like spending money, and anything above that can be garnished by the sheriff and automatically or garnished directly from the employer and automatically deducted out. But when you don't have a typical employment situation, it gets tough.
Eric, can you bring up that picture again?
Of course.
Does this?
Oh, no, wait. Who?
No,
Nate, switch. Oh,
Stormy Daniels and Piers Morgan.
Okay, now is this what you wear to an interview?
Well, forget. It looks like they just got caught. Like someone just busted.
Oh yeah.
Piers Morgan's like zipping up his pants, his shirt's undone. She's trying to look like she didn't do it.
Viva, I can explain this. Do you remember being in junior high?
Oh yeah. No.
Piers Morgan is doing the hide my boner lean. That's what he's doing. Look at him. He's like,
I
hope my suit coat covers it.
I didn't see it, and now it's going to be impossible to unsee. Oh my!
Oh God!
Now I'm picturing Piers Morgan's genitalia. That's the way to start a day.
Okay, that's what I like to bring to the world right there. That's if I can bring healing to the world, it's by having them picture Piers Morgan's genitalia.
Well, you know what? I had made the decision I was not going to clip parts of the longer live streams as shorts, but I may have just gone back on that decision just now. Oh my God. Once you see that, you can't unsee that. Oh, ouch.
Oh,
I was going
Peter
to say Pierce Good Morning Morgan, but okay, never mind.
But the thing is that she's a witness in the case, right? She owes him all this money. Like, her credibility is going to be really, really tough to keep, go to cross-examination, especially now knowing that she owes him all this money, and essentially she's been filing frivolous litigation against him for the past couple of years.
She actually alluded to the fact that Avenatti might have filed it without her authorization or something. Like, she's like, I didn't. He filed it, and I didn't necessarily approve of all of these allegations. So I think it's just a matter of time before she tries to sue Avenatti for having filed without vetting the lawsuit first.
But he's got no money anyway. He's in federal prison, right?
But I presume the Bar Society nonetheless might have to cover him, and maybe they have some insurance to cover for his malpractice
with his insurance. Yeah, because here's the actually my attorney too, but here's the law group saying that they have to
Harmeet.
They $600,000 they got from attorney fees from her, and then Stormy Daniels. I will go to jail before I pay a penny.
Now, is that actionable, by the way, if she makes statements like that, in terms of showing intent? Like, if there's a question whether to go to jail or not, when she puts crap like that out, does that help accelerate that response?
I mean, eventually it could support in a motion for contempt.
Okay.
If she's ordered, the judgment's going to be there. She's ordered to pay the money. They have to go through some steps to try and actually collect on that judgment. But if they're showing that she's being evasive and not complying with sort of that, that judgment discovery and stuff like that, and they move for contempt charges, they could say, look, she's flat out stated she's not going to comply with the court here. So we need to slap some contempt on her. And whether or not she goes to jail for that will be, a question for the court itself.
Okay, you got a super chat for you, Nick. I'm not sure what it means, but have you put your plates on?
No, I have not. So I got custom plates for my car. Here we go.
Shut the front door.
So I haven't put them on yet.
What kind of narcissist gets custom plates for their car? I mean, come on, Nick. I'm joking.
Oh yeah.
They're no longer valid because it's my former Quebec plates, but I kept it when I unregistered the car.
Hey, I'm proud of it because I suggested that name for you, if you remember. You were trying to figure out how to fit Viva Frei on there and what letters to remove. And I said, why not vlog?
It was a seven character limit. I think it's the same in Florida. And I'm thinking of doing it, but I couldn't get Viva Frei. And then someone said Viva FRY, or someone just said Viva, but that was obviously taken. So Law Pope is pretty damn good.
Yeah, Law Pope is
good. That's exactly 7.
I had Law Pope and Law Nose. So those were the 2 options.
Pope is.
Do you have 2 cars? No. Oh my God.
Okay, right. So hold on a second. The big news of the week, though. So Stormy Daniels is one of the witnesses going to be presumably against Trump as relates to the hush payment. The other highly credible witness is going to be Michael Cohen. How does Michael Cohen, Nick, make sense? How does Michael Cohen get out of the fact that he signed a statement attesting to the fact that the payment was made by him, not with Trump's approval, for and on his own behalf? And that's exactly what he was guilty of in terms of exceeding campaign donation limits.
Well, I think you're missing the most important witness, AMI. AMI flipped.
Yeah.
David Pecker. So the National Enquirer flipped, and they came into a non-prosecution agreement with the DA's office. So they don't even need Michael Cohen. The AMI is the one that's saying we paid these people off because we were trying to help Trump's campaign. And that's I think the issue here is the fact that AMI flipped. If AMI doesn't flip, I think you got nothing. But
okay, if they did it, I thought the big thing with Cohen was that Trump paid him back and then misrepresented the payments. If they did it, I mean, there might, it's like Nick gets in trouble. I know everybody be shocked, and I pay money to help bury it. Is that my decision or is it Nick? I don't understand why he would.
That's the thing. Go ahead, Nate.
No, I was just going to explain this, and this may be. It's for probable cause. Probable cause is essentially is more likely than not that this person did this thing you're alleging them for. And here, the allegation is that David Pecker and AMI, they signed the non-prosecution. They became state's evidence, and they said they had a meeting in 2015 with Trump and Cohen, and in that meeting they came to an agreement for this scheme. Now that agreement itself is a crime. That's the crime and conspiracy again. But they haven't charged it. They're playing a lot of games at the DA's office, but they're trying to say that first part is the agreement is the conspiracy, and that conspiracy, then all the stuff that happened after that was part of the agreement. So that's kind of how they're trapping up Trump. Now they don't get Trump without AMI, because AMI is the one that's coming and saying, we did this because Trump ordered us to do it based on this agreement. That's again what they're alleging. I'm not saying that's actually true. That's what they're alleging.
But they're saying we did something that someone else said they didn't do, pleaded guilty to it, and was actually sentenced to jail for it.
They're saying
AMI is basically saying Michael Cohen was wrongly convicted or wrongly pleaded guilty. Michael Cohen is lying when he said he made the payments without Trump's permission or without Trump's knowledge.
Well, the other aspect of that Nate's talking about, though, is that AMI has their own separate. Now, the interesting problem with the AMI one is that they weren't prosecuted for it. They had a non-prosecution agreement where they essentially are admitting to a criminal act. However, a good argument against that is, I mean, they say it's a criminal act that they didn't prosecute them for, but we don't actually have a guilty verdict. You can get someone to sign a statement for non-prosecution admitting to facts that don't actually amount to a criminal act. And I think with AMI, there's a really good argument that their attempt to buy, or their intent and actual execution of buying this footage for the purposes of not airing it is still within their purview as a media organization. I mean, there's nothing that says that you can not buy someone's story to prevent it from coming out. In the same way, you can buy a painting to put in a vault that no one can ever see because you don't want it to be seen by the public for whatever reason on earth that you have for that. This is going to be a big problem with the prosecution, is even with Cohen's thing. Did Cohen commit a crime? Maybe. I mean, he's pled guilty to it and convicted for it, but people plead guilty and are convicted for crimes that they don't commit all of the time. Then that's the first hurdle. The second hurdle is, did Trump participate in that aspect of the scheme? Was he intentionally doing this in furtherance of the known criminal scheme? Like, does Trump really care about Michael Cohen's mischaracterization of funds that would be illegal? And did he do that? And same thing with AMI.
Am I wrong, though, that Michael Cohen's crime was not the catch and kill? It was exceeding campaign finance limits. So it wasn't the catch and kill per se. That was the. But
But the interesting thing. So if Trump actually organized a scheme, so let me noodle. I was talking through this with Ty last night. There's this really weird thing with Cohen. If Trump was actually reimbursing Cohen for a campaign contribution, Trump has an unlimited ability to contribute to his own campaign.
Mm-hmm.
correct.
And Cohen is technically acting as his agent in that problem. So they've got a problem there. Now, the scheme that they allude to in the statement of facts is this mischaracterization, an overpayment of the funds. So they're saying that he reimbursed Michael Cohen by Cohen doing $130,000 to one person, 150 or another 50 for a total of 180. Then they doubled that to make it 360. Then they added in another $60,000 bonus. And the Cohen's mischaracterization of it was as income, which means that the mischaracterization that would be unlawful to change it from a campaign contribution that was reimbursed to income would be to the benefit of the government in Michael Cohen paying additional taxes, which doesn't make any sense from a criminal standpoint. And it goes against the whole intent to defraud issue that is a big part of this falsifying business records. Who are they defrauding? Like, who is being taken for a ride here if the entire scheme results in Michael Cohen getting more money, Trump willingly paying more money, and then the federal government getting more money in taxes? So they have this either or problem on the Cohen thing that I think is going to be a mess with the prosecution. Sorry, that's a lot of trains to follow on that one, but it's weird.
Well, yeah, it's the whole. I think number one, I disagree with with part of that because I think their biggest issue is the statute of limitations. I think it's very simple. If I'm Trump's lawyer, I'm hammering the statute of limitations. For those who don't know, in New York, if you're committed a felony, they have 5 years to bring the charges. If they don't bring them within 5 years, it's like it never happened. And then right now you add an extra year on for the COVID year. So really 6 years now. It's past that time frame has passed. So we're actually a little past the 6-year time frame. Since that's the case, their only argument is that Trump was outside of the state during the time, during part of that time. So that tolls the statute of limitations. But if you're outside the state, it has to be continuously. Like say I moved somewhere. So they're saying for the 4 years he was in Washington, he was president, they couldn't have done anything. But that argument doesn't work because he wasn't there continuously in the sense of he never came back to New York. He came back to New York for a lot of stuff. He was for the UN. He came back to he would stay in New York for weeks at a time sometimes. So that I think is going to be their real issue is that the statute of limitations. Can they make the argument that they couldn't have charged Trump earlier? Because they could have. But they're saying that, no, we couldn't have for the 4 years he was president.
This is a good question, too, on the super chat that hopefully is timely. But yeah, I'd like to know this, too. I don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Cohen.
I have the answer on that. There's a case on this. It's People versus Noble. Mm-hmm. And it's subdivision 4A1 excludes a period during which the defendant, quote, was continuously outside the state. To be continuous, an absence from the state need not be uninterrupted during the applicable period. The focus of the tolling provision of CPL 30.10 is, quote, the difficulty of apprehending a defendant who is outside the state. Thus, all periods of a day or more that a non-resident defendant is out of state should be totaled and toll the statute of limitations. So any 24-hour period or more is totaled up in there. And I think Trump spent more than the sufficient amount of time to toll the statute to keep him within it.
I think there was also the argument, Nate, maybe I'm mistaken on this, that they're saying 5 years would be December 2022. They indicted in March 2023. And one of the other arguments is that they ratified all of their false statements from 2017 in their filings for 2018. Thus, they sort of retroactively reaffirmed the felonious conduct in 2018, which gives them the 5 years. I think that's one of the arguments as well. Cohen was convicted. 5 counts of willful tax evasion, 1 count of false statements, and the other count of an unlawful campaign contribution, which is where all of this falls on its face, because the only way Cohen gets convicted of that is if the Trump payment is not made by Trump for Trump, because he can't he can't spend more than a certain limit. He has no limit for donating to his own campaign. So they basically, what Cohen was convicted of, pleaded guilty to, precludes any argument that it was Trump actually making the payment, which wouldn't have been illegal for him to make in the first place. So they're trying to catch and kill unlawful fraudulent payment, when I don't think that's illegal in any realm of the universe.
Not to mention, Trump has an affirmative defense through Citizens United to say that just because Cohen pleaded guilty, he did not direct that money through the Trump campaign. You can spend any amount of money you want on behalf of someone else, so long as it's not done at the direction of the campaign. So if Trump goes to Cohen's statement that, look, he made this thing on his own, that's not actually a campaign contribution. I'm very sorry he was stupid enough to plead guilty to something that wasn't a crime. But Citizens United says that, like, if Jeff over there is running for mayor of some town in Arizona, and I need to go pay off all of Jeff's former lovers, like, I can, out of the kindness of my heart, go and pay off all of those handsome men. And then, as long as he doesn't direct me to do that, that's under Citizens United. I have the full ability to do that. That's not a campaign contribution. That's just merely me doing something in favor of a political candidate that I like. Like, I can do that, but to an unlimited amount.
Well, the only issue that I think that you're going to have is that the DA's office alleges that there are 3 people within this scheme. And the 3 people are Trump, Cohen, and AMI. And 2 of those people, both AMI and Cohen, who are supposedly in this scheme, have flipped and said specifically, we did this on behalf of this to support the campaign. So these were campaign violence. So now, even if you do make the argument that these weren't, you do have to still overcome the fact that you do have 2 witnesses who are allegedly part of the scheme, who have said that yes, this was for that reason. So that's why I think when people are saying the indictment is just is nonsense, I understand politically, yes, but then if you do have these two live witnesses, both AMI and Cohen, you probable cause is such a low standard that I think they've met that. You know what I mean? Because the standard is so low, and everyone else in here could easily talk about how easy it is to, that's why they say you can indict a ham sandwich. And I think essentially that's what you got here. You're indicted a ham sandwich.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Legal vices. You haven't said anything yet.
Oh, this is like one of these Sesame Street things. There's like one of these things is not like the other. I'm just like I'm amongst my betters, and I'm just listening to this whole thing. It's shady garbage from square one. And the fact that everybody has to parse and try to figure out exactly how they happen to do this and how they can link all the dots just tells you how weak and shady this thing is from the very beginning. The other thing I've learned from is just what Nick was saying. I just have to stop paying off my former lovers.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, they owe you $500,000, right?
Damn straight. I'm gonna start charging.
Keep your schmeckles.
Why do I
in your
have
pants.
to pay?
What was the no? But I like the fact that I think he was Jared. What's his name? Jared Garrett. Who, when I'm listening to this thing, Nick, Legal Vices, you'll tell me if you saw the same thing. When he says the indictment did not specify the underlying crime because it's not so required by law, I'm thinking like that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But I don't feel confident enough in American law to say that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah,
Well, I think
because it's not really a
Nate's
crime.
best qualified to answer this one.
Yeah, that's true. You don't you have to allege it, but you don't have to show it there. So it happened in Chauvin. Chauvin's another case that happened in where they didn't charge the underlying assault. They just charged the felony assault. So, but you still have to prove the underlying crime, but you don't have to charge it. So, like in Chauvin, they proved the underlying assault, even though they didn't charge it.
But the issue here was not that they didn't charge the underlying crime; it's that he didn't specify what the underlying crime was in the indictment, which means that Trump has no idea what the underlying crime is itself, upon which this indictment is based. Chauvin, we knew what the underlying crime was.
Yes,
charge him or not, at least it was mentioned. This indictment didn't even specify the underlying crime; they just say crimes.
Yeah, you don't.
Not an expert on this, but my understanding is they don't have to put the underlying crime in the indictment. One, because if Trump isn't being charged with the crime, for example, if it is Michael Cohen's crime that they're going to use, they don't have to charge Trump with that. Although you'd think there'd be a conspiracy charge that they'd want to throw in there, but it's then incumbent upon Trump's lawyers to file for something called a bill of particulars, which will then force the prosecution to specifically lay out the crimes at that point. And then once that happens, they'll have to pick their avenue.
You see that to me is the understanding under civil law. When it comes to criminal accusations, it would seem to me that not specifying the crime in the indictment upon which the fraudulent payment is based would violate some fundamental rights. You don't make a bill of particulars or a motion for particulars after you've already been publicly criminally charged. That's a violation of due process. At least that's what I would argue with my limited understanding as a civil attorney from Quebec. But
I think because the indictment is actually proof of nothing. The indictment is saying, hey, this is what we got. This is what we're charging you with. And here are the facts, the facts that have brought us to that. So I think, but they're going to have to show their hand eventually. They're going to have to show, because you can't just have 175.10. You can't just have the charge of felony business records without that underlying, because you have to put in the second thing is you don't have crime was committed. You have to prove the intent to commit another crime. So it's either you can commit the crime or you can just prove that they intended to commit another time. The classic example is if I falsify business records for tax purposes, right? I falsify the business record, that's the misdemeanor. But then if I'm doing it and to pay less taxes, that's the felony.
I think the issue here is not the fact that they have to prove or have not proved the underlying crime. They didn't specify what it is. So now Trump is sitting there saying fraudulent payments for an underlying crime. And he said it like 5 times during the presser without mentioning what it is, and then says, I don't have to mention what it is because the law does not so require.
Which is weird.
It seems at least other American lawyers who are purported experts, according to Fox News, say that might have violated Trump's Sixth Amendment rights and might lead to a dismissal. But
they do this
yeah,
go ahead, Nick.
I don't think it's going to lead to a dismissal on that issue because again, the process for this is for then Trump's attorneys to file that bill of particulars, and at that point they will have to lay out the underlying crime assuming the motion is granted, and then they'll, if they refuse to at that point upon being ordered to lay it out, then you've got a Sixth Amendment issue. But until that happens, right now we've just got an indictment on these criminal charges, and then we'll get more of it as we go, I guess. I agree with what you're saying, Viva. I think that should be the process. I think we should have a system where from jump the government needs to show exactly what you're accused of, because you should have every moment of your defense to prepare your defense. But what we want and what we get are often in conflict.
Does anybody actually think this is going to see the inside of a courtroom?
It already has, right? He's already been inside the courtroom. He was indicted.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean. I can't see this going. To me, this just seems like, oh, we can say we impeached him. Now we get to say he was indicted.
I think the way generally 99.9% of the times out of this, you go to the person, you say, hey, we got you for this falsifying business records, pay the fine, and don't do it again, right? You pay a $5-6 million fine. I don't know why they're going through this, because generally that's why you don't hear about cases like this hitting most of the time, because they go to the person and say, we got you, just pay the fine. So this may be more of a dog and pony show than an actual criminal. But the thing is,
totally my feeling.
Yeah, it's a dog and pony show.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah,
Nate,
but it's
can
a
you
risky
explain
one.
paper case? Because you were telling me it's a paper case, and you're
Yeah,
a
it's a
former
paper
New
case.
York DA. Don't let him get out of this. But Nate has worked this kind of thing in his previous life that he's trying to atone for. So can you explain that?
But what I mean by a paper case is that it's really based on the documents. When you talk about falsifying business records, it's going to be based on the documents. So when you read through the indictment, they'll have invoice number, blah, 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 right? And I'll say that invoice was to pay Stormy Daniels, and we mischaracterized it. And then they'll say Trump knew that was that we were going to do that, so that implicates Trump. And that's what I mean by a paper case. There's a whole bunch of documents. But I think the evidence, again, that the DA says it has text messages, it says it has emails to show this intent, it says it has recordings, which we can listen to some of the recordings because they're actually public. They have recordings, and then they have the testimony of Stormy, of the doorman, for instance, of all these people, Stormy Daniels, the doorman, and David Pecker and them. But I think Trump's biggest issue is AMI. I don't think Stormy Daniels and Cohen are junk. No one should believe them. But I do think AMI is the problem, because AMI flipped too. And AMI is
but even the thing is this, even if what AMI says is true, it's still not a crime. That's the problem. So they have to prove that even if they characterized it the way they did, it would be a crime for something. And what they seem to be alleging, Bragg, in as much as he doesn't mention it, says federal election law, although he did say also state election law, which I don't know how state election law could apply to this. It would have to be a crime in and of itself to characterize it the way they did, unless it's just an accounting dispute. So,
yeah.
Under the Murdoch doctrine, they're going to find him guilty of murder before they're done.
Well, there was one other thing I just love about the indictment. It's that it's month by month. February, 4 charges: writing the invoice, writing the check, entering the ledger, and entering the voucher, whatever the voucher
Each
is.
one, yeah.
March, invoice, check, ledger. It's so flipping ridiculous.
That's how they do it. You're saying that's ridiculous. That's literally how they do it.
They should get
every single. It's great.
They should get him for thinking. Every time he thought about it, it was conspiracy to commit fraud. Get another 17 charges.
The big problem with the AMI thing comes down to with Cohen, it makes almost a little more sense. With AMI, there could be a criminal act of mischaracterization of what happened. The critical thing is that they have to prove that Trump intended that criminal act, or the concealment of that criminal act, which, if we're talking about an AMI accounting criminal act, you're a level of abstraction away. Trump may have agreed to a scheme in which AMI goes ahead and buys this person's story and then sits on it. And that's not an illegal thing to do. And then he may have agreed to the part of the scheme where they reimburse AMI for that purchase. But he may not have agreed to the scheme where AMI mischaracterizes its filing. And that's this that's his thing, and that's why I'm skeptical about what Bragg says, because of the way DAs tend to word things when they're making a public proclamation, like, oh, we've got messages of him agreeing to this conspiracy. Well, if it's Trump going, yeah, I think it's wonderful you got that story. I love that you're sitting on it. It's great. We, after the election, it could come out. That'll be fine. Look, I just need this to not come out until then. And yes, of course, we'll make it worth your while. We'll pay you back for it. That'll be fine. But if he doesn't go further into saying, and I also need you to characterize that improperly on your taxes, or we don't get to that, then they may not be able to prove this crime. But I'm going to have to go here in just a second. But I want to say one last thing, because Nate brought up a really good point. It is a paper case. It's really important. And Jeff said he doesn't think it'll see the inside of a courtroom. If this thing goes to trial, though, I don't want to understate how risky this is for Donald Trump because of the nature of who he is and where he is. He has got a judge who will likely be unfriendly or unsympathetic to him. He has a DA who is hell-bent, who ran on a campaign of putting Trump in jail. And he's got a populace that is very familiar with him. And like the likelihood of political opposition to him is very high. And that makes it a risky case, regardless of what the facts are. And you don't want to be in a position of, well, I'll win on appeal because this is injustice. Because one, you might not, and two, you're still going to you're going to be dealing with being prosecuted for all of the relevant time for Trump. That'll be that's the intention here, is to get through this 2024 election.
Yeah.
Well, and Nick, before he leaves, is saying, of course, remember to subscribe because he may appear again.
And I will try and do more of these like first segment appearances. And if I ever, like, for whatever reason, don't have a chiropractor appointment, I'll be here, brother, man. I love these shows. I love getting to talk to all these guys and dig into some like good legal topics or good news topics. It's always a lot of fun.
Appreciate it very much, sir. And this is a super chat that came in. I've got another one from earlier to go over, but you guys could probably answer this. Did the judge say that they wanted him in Trump in court every day? And is it a male or a female? I thought it was a female judge.
The judge is a male, isn't it?
It's
I'm not sure.
Okay, well,
but generally you have to go to each one of your court appearances. So unless it's just like sometimes it's scheduling something. So like,
they don't have another court appearance until December, right?
Yeah, it should be for a long time.
I don't think it's even officially scheduled yet. I think they said it would likely be in December.
Well, they let Alec Baldwin be prosecuted for murder and appear by Zoom. And even that he can't seem to do half the time. So, you would think that a former president who lives out of state, maybe he doesn't necessarily have to be in the courtroom. But okay.
But that's unfair because those are two different jurisdictions, though. Like in New Mexico, they could do things differently because I know in New York, they make a big deal out of the defendant appearing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, gentlemen. It's been great seeing all of you. I love you all. Chat.
Thank you,
I love
sir.
you all.
He loves us.
Great
Thank
to see
you.
Later.
Reaching down to massage his shoulders.
Catch you guys soon. Peace. Peace.
Later.
I
do think. Well, just one last thing on the Trump thing.
Okay.
I think on two of the charges, one of them about the Stormy Daniels one, in the statement of facts, Trump actually did say, like, hey, we shouldn't even pay her. Let the story come out. It doesn't matter. And they still did that whole scheme. So I think that one, he's got a really great defense on. And then the second one is the doorman, because there's three stories. There's the doorman story.
Doorman ended up being false.
It was a false story. And again, Trump was said that he didn't. Trump, and I think a part of it said he didn't care if the story came out, but they still paid him off to $30,000, and then they released him from the NDA. They said, "Well, this doesn't make any sense because it's a lie anyway," and they still charged him with that one. So I think those two are the ones that are the weakest. The one with the McDougal, though, that's the one I think they may have him because that was all AMI, and AMI literally in that said, "Hey, this is it." So,
all right, I wanted to bring this up too. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jeff. I'm sorry, you don't talk much. So go. No, stop. Oh.
You're the first person that's ever said that to me, Eric.
No. Let me fix things. There you go.
I am not a crook. No, I was saying the thing that Nick was saying that it's Trump needs to be scared of this. I don't think the American public understands what is going to be happening in the future if they go ahead and open this Pandora's box. If we look at the impeachment deal, impeachment was something that happened twice in the history of America. Once we went down the impeachment route with Clinton, every single president has either been impeached or threatened with impeachment or had impeachment processes started against them. And you're going to see this now. The default position is going to be we we don't like the other guy, we're going to indict him and we're going to try to throw him in jail. Here in Korea, where I live, literally, I mean, virtually every single president since the Korean War has served time in jail or hasn't been out of office long enough to serve time in jail because of this same thing. That's just what you do. You get out of office, a new party gets in, and you go after the last guy, because nobody becomes president of the United States, the most powerful man on earth, without doing some shady stuff somewhere along the line.
Good,
I think it's going to open a huge Pandora's box.
Well, and even Mitt Romney, your Utah, you're from Utah, right? Your senator had to
That's
agree.
just because Massachusetts didn't want him anymore, so he came home.
Well, there you go. Either there or his family's in Mexico where they're all armed up.
Yeah.
And anyway, that's another story. This story, Viva, David, you've been covering, and it would probably be a great subject to talk about, the meme trial. What's going on here?
Yeah, what is that?
The meme trial. Douglas Mackey, who made the meme that says, save some time, vote from home, text Hillary to 44368.
Oh, yeah.
This is the same answer to what Legal Vices was just talking about. I don't think it opens up a Pandora's box because it's a one-way street of prosecutorial abuse. There was a Democrat candidate in 2016 who made a meme, Republicans vote from home, text whatever, or it was a text meme and a vote on a Wednesday meme. It doesn't open up a Pandora's box because the abuse of the prosecutorial system is a politically one-way street. They're only going to go after Republicans that they don't like. They'll try to go after DeSantis if he becomes a threat, criminally charging him for human trafficking for the Martha's Vineyard shtick. The Douglas Mackey conviction on election interference on the basis of that meme I think it's a joke. I mean, I don't want to pull the equivocating thing. Well, maybe someone actually thought you can text from. If my understanding, Nate, you can correct me. Legal Vices. The law was not intended to protect against voter suppression from like armed mobs telling minorities they can't vote. Not memes that are clearly a joke from a meme handle on Twitter, not government entities.
I wonder how that sounds like free speech to me. How was that even charged?
It was charged and it was convicted. Douglas Mackey. Let's see.
Faces up to 10 years, Nate. I'm not kidding.
Wow, that's crazy.
If anyone actually did this, if anyone actually thought you can vote by email, those people should somehow be criminally prosecuted for just being stupid and never allowed to vote ever again.
Yeah, he's doing the service because he's directing the people who are not competent.
I'm going to put the. Can I put it in the private chat here, Eric or Nate?
Yeah.
Bring up one of them. There's just images. They prosecuted him, and they said it was election interference because allegedly 4,000 or 5,000 people texted into the number, but I don't believe any evidence was actually made. That
how do you know they weren't trolling? Maybe
well,
they could have been playing.
That's it. That's
it. It wasn't that they texted it in doesn't mean that they didn't vote the day of. So I don't know that evidence of one person actually not voting as a result of thinking their text counted was ever adduced. It's madness.
Where is it on this, David?
What did I do? No, Eric, that's because I
said Matt Kors.
Forget that. That's not it. That's a wrong link.
I mean, do you think Babylon B didn't text in just to have something fun to say? Do you think TMZ didn't text in just to do something?
4,800 people or something along those lines texted in the number. That's the evidence. They have no evidence that anyone actually thought their text counted as a vote. And in any event, I don't think that's what the law was intending to govern by way of preventing election interference or voter intimidation.
And they not only charge that, but they get crazy.
Is Nate breaking up or is it me?
No, it's Nate.
Okay.
This is a Google.
His vocoder's working.
It's just a Google search. I got you. All
right,
yeah.
Just pull up one of the images because it has all the.
All right.
And let's just preface this so no one accuses Eric of voter intimidation. We're doing news coverage, people. That was it right there. Avoid the line. Vote from home. Text Hillary to 555. And by the way, they framed it as though he was targeting black voters. They framed it as though there was a racist element to this. He was targeting black Hillary voters because the person on the meme happens to be black. This is how the political left cannot see humans as humans. They can only see people as identity
what
politics.
The hell? And this got them convicted. I got to look at this case.
This is real.
This sounds insane to me.
I thought you knew about it. Yeah, they've been covering it on Viva and Barnes for a bit. But yeah, it's
That's scary because
No,
that oh my god.
Watch the jokes you make. Like if and Nate, you'll see it. His handle was Ricky Vaughn, which is Charlie Sheen's character. From,
minor league,
yeah,
Yeah,
from
minor league,
was it
yeah.
minor league? Yeah,
major league.
Major League.
Major.
That's
It was the
it,
baseball movie.
Rick
It was
Vaughn,
his handle
yeah.
was Ricky Vaughn. I mean, it's like nobody thought that this was a real government anybody or a serious account telling people to vote by text. Oh man,
Wow.
yeah, nuts.
Actually, yeah,
but
here's his image.
Yeah. Wow. That's ridiculous.
it's ridiculous. Convicted.
Oh, yeah,
He's got robust grounds of appeal, but that's nice. But Nate, going back to the opening, your popular video, did you see what happened to Riley Gaines yesterday at?
I was going to do a short on that. That they're accusing these people of kidnapping. I saw the little clip where they're saying, "You pay us $10 to let her go by," and I guess somebody attacked her. What? Fill us in.
Well, let me get the video. She was apparently assaulted. I forget what university she was giving a talk at. She was assaulted, and then police had to sequester her in a room for 3 hours while they got control of things.
Anymore, it's a university ends with Y. They're all getting pretty bad.
It was. Let me see here. I'll put this in. You can play this, and I'll put it in the UCLA. They're saying, yeah, UCLA. Here, this is her tweet. She was physically assaulted by a man. And then she was ushered into a room for 3 hours.
Sure? Are you
No,
sure
I
you got your pronouns right?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
The person-
What
careful,
are you,
buddy.
a biologist?
no, I know the person was a man. I just don't know if the person identified as whatever. And so she's like,
You're not helping.
this is why
Biological males, the shortcut on that one, buddy.
I don't know. They're saying even to use the term biological male presupposes there's something as a non-biological male.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, you know what? We're doing the best we can with this language. We have limitations. So here we go.
We have a. I know it was a biological male from the reporting, and I don't know if the male was identified as a man assaulting a woman, in furtherance of allowing biological men to compete in women's sports, and we're the crazy people for thinking that this is absurd.
So confused.
This is after the assault. Eric,
I don't know where to go.
Oh no! Just keep playing, but just pay attention to the people chanting peace and love in her face as she walks down the hall after.
Okay.
Okay, keep going.
It's like a bad Halloween haunted house.
You just see nothing.
She's trying to one up Jordan Peterson and Brett Weinstein.
So this woman is assaulted.
Those are police officers right there. Not.
I like how nobody's around her or anything, and it looks like they're letting everybody get right into her face.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
This happened to the judge too.
So Riley Gaines is the athlete. Riley Gaines is the.
All right. Well, that's charming.
All right. So
Literally, that's the word I was just gonna say. Charming. That's funny.
So this was all about. She was giving a speech because she didn't agree that trans men or trans women
that biological males should be competing in women's sports. That's
because she's a female athlete and she's one of those people who have suffered from these policies.
She's the one who testified about Leah Thomas in the changing room with the women, exposing, and I'm not saying her penis, exposing his penis.
I would just say a penis.
It's so ridiculous that we're being compelled to actually have to think, do I refer to it as her penis? Leah Thompson showed her penis in the women's locker room. It's idiocracy come to real life. So Riley Gaines she testified before Congress about how uncomfortable the women felt. Some of them were too shy to say anything. Leah Thomas would get changed in the women's changing room, exposing the male genitalia. And women are being told that you have to deal with this, otherwise you're a bigot, and being accosted and assaulted like this.
You know what?
Like I did like the meme-worthy meme story that happened earlier this week with the trans person that set the women's weightlifting record, and then the other guy in Canada just said, "I'm a woman."
Oh, yes,
big
that was
guy,
Nate's.
full beard, just walks in and then walks out the door.
That's
New
my
women's
5
record.
million view video, baby. Boom.
That's right.
5 million?
Yeah, it was
Yes.
getting 1 million per day.
Sweet.
I did the story, but one thing though, and I think we need to first come out with the disclaimer. We believe if you're an adult, you can call yourself whatever you want. You can live your life. You can love whoever you want. You can live your life with everyone, right? Everybody in this live stream agrees with that. No
I
one
don't
has
care.
any issue with that, right? You can love, live, marry, whatever.
Well, you've got to qualify it a little bit more.
Well, yes, but I think the
Yeah.
issue that we're talking about is in athletics. There are two particular divisions. There's an open division for anyone, right? It doesn't matter if you're a man, woman, whoever. If you can get the times or the best, you win. And then there's a female-only category for people who didn't go through male puberty.
I got another one, Nate. That's not
Right.
athletics.
But I'm
I'm
saying just
t-
for athletics.
No. But I'm tired of Women of the Month and Women of the Year. Okay, I'd like to. Maybe I'm just a purist, but I would like to see ovaries involved in a Woman of Fill in the Blank award.
But
In addition to the athletics,
this is the whole.
you know, we have.
If you're a woman in your mind, does that mean you're a woman physically? You're
I don't
objectively a
know.
woman?
It's
I like
over
it.
50% of the population is women. I'm just going to defer to that and say, hey, let's just let the biological females be woman of fill in the blank.
See, I've got a ridiculously simple solution to this. Stop
Uh-oh.
with all the pronouns and have the XX sports and the XY sports.
No, that Nate's actually right. The sports as they are now, the female athletics are a restricted sport.
Yeah.
The trans athletes can compete in any, in against males all day, all night. Why aren't they? Why aren't they rushing to say, hey, I'm going to go get this male powerlifting record and I'm going to take that one? And why isn't Fallon Fox, competing in the UFC against men? Oh, wait, Fallon Fox was competing against men, didn't do so well, then shifted to the restricted category.
Eric,
Maybe that's
And
why.
the classic example of that is whichever one was the Williams sisters, when they asked if you wanted to play against men, she'd I'd be like
yeah.
number 240.
Yeah.
if
Well,
I played
actually,
against
they did the math for the Olympics. The top woman sprinter, her time was worse than the top 2,000 men. So 2,000 men
Mhm.
that beat her score, and then she's the fastest woman. Can't be. She couldn't even qualify for anything on it. But that's the reason why we have it. So
Or what about the 13-year-olds who played against the top women's soccer team?
Nate,
How did
Nate,
that go?
destroyed them.
is
Yeah.
that story true?
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
That it was the junior men that played against.
Oh yeah, the
Okay.
15-year-old boys. Well, it
No,
was
it was
happening
like
so much
13
they
years.
stopped
Yeah.
it. So there's the under 15-year-old boys. So they beat the world champion U.S. soccer team 5-2. But
it
then
was
there's
like
one.
watching the Harlem Globetrotters.
But then there's another one with the
Yeah.
Australian team, which was like number 5 in the world. The fifth, they lost to 14-year-old boys 7-0. And people were like, this obviously shows that, even again, these are championship women's team who lost to 15-year-old boys 7-0. It wasn't even close.
Eric, can you go to see what the most recent edits were on Wikipedia?
Sure. Hang
Because
on.
I put up a while back. It was a few weeks ago, but it was before the most recent edits to the differences between male and females on Wikipedia.
Where do I find that? Because I know there's talk.
Well, no, I
where
put the
the-
link at least to the page in the.
I
private-
got that, but I don't know where the edit part is.
Oh, yeah, so I don't know that either. So, and I just want to see, because I covered it, and then everyone was joking around like, how fast Wikipedia is going to edit this page.
Well, no, they'll lock it because that's what happened with Lee Harvey Oswald and the rifle. We talk about a lot on America's Untold Stories, but Mark was investigating. There's questions about the rifle that Lee Harvey Oswald supposedly used to kill JFK, and they reported it as one rifle. But then if you look at the rifle they reported as, and you look at pictures with them, the sling attachment is actually at an angle on one versus the one that they're saying it was. But anyway, it went back and forth on Wikipedia. And then finally, it was locked down to where there could be no more edits on it. Coincidentally, where was the link from? Who last responded? Coordinates, Langley, Virginia. I know everybody's shocked. But anyway, so yeah, I don't know how to find that. If somebody could send a tighter link, but this is a huge article to scan all day, and the talk doesn't even seem to be that busy.
Interesting. What else happened this week that's interesting?
Oh, well, I got a couple super chats. I definitely want to get.
That's interesting.
Well, hey, yes, please. Tennessee Republicans are already working to indict Biden while he's still in office. Bragg ran on prosecuting Trump, so these Republicans are saying they have the same right. Good point. Yes.
The only reason why they won't be able to indict him while he's in office is because he has what's known as sovereign immunity. So as long as he's head of state and head of government, you can't indict him. You have to wait till he leaves office. Even though
that would be declared mentally incompetent after he's out.
I've heard that. I've heard that before because somebody clarified, because like sovereign immunity now. Now I'm not saying this happened, YouTube. So let's say fictional president Jeff Smith,
correct,
killed somebody, committed murder.
Yes.
And then was elected president the following day.
Okay.
Could President Jeff Smith be convicted, or would they have to be impeached, removed, and then convicted? What would be the path for that? Help me out.
So the way it works is that if the person was elected president, then at that point, they can't be arrested, they can't be prosecuted anywhere on the planet. So nowhere on the planet, because they would essentially be this happened in Europe. I forget the name of the president who was also who was president for life, and he was trying to stay in presidency, so he couldn't be indicted. And even The Hague, for instance, with war crimes, they can indict you and everything, but there's really nothing they can do. So in this case, if the president killed someone, became president, they would have to wait 4 years to end and him to be knocked out of prison, or for him to be impeached, and then they can do the.
What about Clinton? Somebody in the chat saying Clinton did. Because wasn't he disbarred or had
Clinton? Yes. So with Clinton,
and he was still president.
Yes. So with Clinton, the last week of his presidency, he negotiated with the FBI, because what happens is that they weren't sure if he could pardon himself. So the last week in office, because they were hoping Gore won, because if Gore wins, he just does it. But since Gore didn't win, they were trying to figure out what would happen. So so he negotiated with the FBI and gave up his law license stuff so he wouldn't be prosecuted later. So, but he couldn't be prosecuted while he was in office. He could be prosecuted after he left. That's what they tried to impeach him.
So he negotiated while he was in a position of power, obviously.
Of course,
and maybe said, oh, well, there could be some funds somewhere that might slip to your state. Not that I know that for certain. Dragon's Treasury, we can no longer make fun of other countries for thought crimes and internet crimes now. We are now in that realm.
Dragon's Treasury. No, it's like we were pooping on Brazil for their level of corruption and how hold on one second, I just lost my thought there. Oh no, we were pooping on Brazil, condemning Russia for jailing journalists. The Canada and the US have now done it's not maybe to the same extent, but it's same in nature. Like this is prosecuting former political officials under the most bogus charges ever. It's what they do in corrupt Central American,
it's even worse,
East European banking countries.
It's even worse. We're very close to the Chinese social credit score. Very close to that, and whatever the government's not doing, corporations are doing. But then I don't know if that's not the same thing, because doesn't the government work for the corporations in the end?
Well, and in Canada they ratified freezing of bank accounts to suppress peaceful protest. I mean, it was ratified by the commission. We'll see if the courts ratify it in the current pending proceedings, but they will.
Well, in Canada, I'm about to go win the bench pressing championship right now.
No, I hope everybody.
I'm a woman and I can win. So
the Supreme Court just ruled that athlete can continue to compete and they could not be held back. So I personally think that Avi and everybody needs to jump in and win every event to just blow the whole thing out.
You know what's going to happen. You know you're going to have some guys that go. Because again, like. I can bench press. I was doing 225. I can do right now. Technically, I can do maybe 270 at max. I was at 315 at one point, but at 270, I would be almost the top woman in New York. You know what I'm saying? In terms of bench pressing, and I'm not no trained athlete. So I think people really need to understand.
Does Rosie O'Donnell still live there?
Eric, I sent you a Twitter thread from Asra Namani, who says, as a Muslim girl who found my stride running this track in Morgantown, West Virginia, wind in my hair, know this. Girls' rights will be protected in sports in America. The Supreme Court decision today temporarily allows a biological male to compete as a transgender girl athlete. And the thread goes on, explaining yeah, Nate might be able to beat the best women. I wouldn't be able to. But the comparison is not an average male to the top competitive female. It's the top competitive in both categories, and there is no comparison for obvious Wikipedia recognized biological reasons, and this is a joke. And the fact that they have to impose these rules to penalize the biological males, they can't have testosterone above a certain level, they have to be going a certain period through transition. They acknowledge the differences, and now they're trying to circumvent these biological differences to the detriment of women, to the point now where we have women being assaulted by men in the name of trans rights. Make it make sense.
By the way, I'm sorry, Nate, but I did a short because that was one thing. What was it? I forgot, but essentially the committee behind the Olympics for all the running events has ruled that any trans female who has passed puberty is banned from the sport. But people aren't thinking, and I did a short about this on this channel, folks. I'm doing shorts now. I'm working really hard. Check them out, please. People are forgetting about one little fact, and that is past puberty. My fear is, Johnny is a pretty good track runner, hasn't quite hit puberty yet. We've got a solution for that. And
remember when we all made fun of the East German
thing.
Swimming team and the Russian women's Olympic teams for doing this shit? This stuff. Sorry,
that's fine. We've said shit.
But I think the craziest part about it is that it's the narrative is they're banned from the sport. That's totally false. They are not banned from the sport. They are just banned from competing in the XX category. They can compete in the open category all day long. So but the thing is that they don't have the advantage in the open category. They only have the advantage in the female category. So I don't know where you go from that, but it's obvious. If I was competing for money, I would of course want to compete with the women. That's where I can easily make the money. But I think the media narrative that they can't compete at all is just nonsense. They can compete, but they have to compete in the open.
It is funny how we hear very little clamoring for women to be competing in men's sports on the basis of invoking trans. Yeah, and I dare say there would never be any objection from men's sports. Period.
I think there have been a couple, like a couple kickers. Was there a kicker?
No, well,
but no, I'm just saying if they can qualify, they can get in.
The best example is the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour is open to anybody, and there have been 3 women who've qualified for PGA Tour
events.
Annika Sorenstam. Yes, Annika Sorenstam. There's a Michelle Wee, I think.
Danica Patrick.
She competes with the men too. So if you want to compete in a PGA, there's no bar. But the LPGA in its bylaws say you have to actually be a woman. So that's the difference.
This was when I stopped loving Vijay Singh. When Vijay Singh said, "I won't compete in the PGA if Annika Sorenstam competes because it's for men." It's like I lost all respect that I ever had for Vijay, and I've never gained it back. But that's just an anecdote.
It's a whiner anyway.
I don't have double standards. There is no competitive advantage for a biological female to compete in, I'm going to say all men's sports, but there might be one exception. I don't know where flexibility might be.
Ultra running. Ultra running.
Yeah.
There have been some interesting studies about that, and it is contested. But if you look at some of these extreme races, I'm talking about 100 miles plus, like 200 to 500 miles, it's almost like flip a coin.
Well, hold on, but
men and women winning them, and they're open.
But they're open. They don't exclude women from competing.
No. No. But that's the point. Yes,
well, I can see 2 ways to end. This is going to end. One, every time someone who's not a biological woman gets in a pool or something, everyone else just gets out and says, "Fine, let them swim by themselves." Someone gets on a basketball court, everybody else walks off. That's
meanwhile, but they have here's the problem with that, Jeff.
I know, but
what about their scholarship and what about
but you have to get to some level of absurdity. Or the other way is wait for the first transgender hockey player to come in and just literally kill somebody. I don't know.
Well,
Well,
we came
I mean,
close with Fallon Fox and
in the UFC,
breaking
which is
orbital sockets.
But I mean, now in fairness, that also happens in men's fights. But the
Of course.
skeletal structure,
Yeah.
as you look at the Wikipedia, a man's skeletal structure is denser and stronger. Their muscles.
Can you just
are,
see some guy just laying some woman up into the boards
Oh, it's
and just,
gross.
I mean,
Oh,
literally taking them out?
Manon Rhéaume, she was the hockey player who made it as a goalie in the NFL, in the NHL for 1 or 2 games. I have her rookie card. It's still not worth very much. What's up?
Yeah, but because they want to. But again, it's the narrative is great, right? Hey, if we can't compete with the women, we can't compete at all. But that's not the case. It's if we can't have the unfair advantage against the women, then we can't compete at all in this room.
Like in wrestling, I could always wrestle up a weight category, but an upper weight category could not wrestle down a weight category unless we consented. And when we would consent, it would be under the acknowledgement that the heavier weight category had a biological, physiological advantage over the lower weight category, and that's why weight categories were created in the first place.
Yeah.
There was another good one
But
of the week.
But what do you say? Because the response that I usually get now is that sports is inherently unfair, and they point to this one. They say, well, first is the long jump. The person who wins it is usually over 6 feet tall, and the person who loses it, like in 10th place, is like 5'10".
Yeah,
So
like
they'll say, well,
basketball.
sports is never fair. So why do we care if it's fair in this particular instance?
Well, that's like basketball. Same argument. NBA.
Yeah.
It's like, other than what is that guy? Studs or Spud? Whatever. There's like one.
Bud McKenzie,
No.
No,
I
there
forgot
was
his-
Stud Circle.
Studs.
No.
No.
Spud,
no,
Spud
that's an
McKenzie.
actor.
Spud McKenzie.
That's a dog.
Spud Webb. I mean, Spud Webb.
Spud Webb.
Spud
Yeah,
Webb, that's who it was.
Yeah. Okay. And that was
Muggsy
like.
Bogue. It's Muggsy Bogue you're thinking about.
Muggsy Bogue's another one. Yeah.
That's what I knew.
Okay.
Spud Webb. He
Spud
won
Webb
the
was the one I
slam
was
dunk
thinking of.
championship.
But even if that's the argument, Nate, then the argument would nonetheless be that if you're dealing with the law of averages based on physiology, that that among those ultra who have longer legs, that they're all going to be a male anyhow. So like at least you're going to have a competition among those who have the chance of exceeding that level of biological fitness or whatever it is. But it's a bad argument because all that it's just acknowledging the differences and saying, well, it's not fair that the best should win because the best might have bigger lungs, longer legs, and whatever. But that's
And we can continue down that line too and just say, okay, well, fine. We have different long jump, whatever, and the taller people are there. So go ahead, all of you, again, trans men, jump on over.
Yeah,
Jump on in and compete. Since it doesn't matter about the height, you go right on in there.
So why want to get? So that would be my argument, right? If it doesn't matter about it being fair, then why not just compete with them in the men's category? Why not compete in the open category? Right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? But it does matter. That's the reason why they're arguing about it. So,
Well, I just know which division of women long jumper shows up mostly in my YouTube feed. So,
did you see Hillary Clinton?
I'm sorry. I want to get some super chats through. I have not seen that video. I'll have to look at it. I'm sure it's quite disturbing. Read up on the French Revolution. We're approaching the phase simply known as the terror. Even 4 lawyers are couching language out of fear. Well, fear of YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a YouTube, dude. I mean,
no, and I'm not.
I'd like to make a couple bucks and stay monetized, please. Thank you very much.
I'm not couching my language out of fear. I'm just couching my language so that I don't say something that I don't actually mean to say. So that's my. It's not some repercussions. It's just not. It's something coming out badly or not the way I intended it.
By the way, if it is becoming so, I am curious about this because we have so many people identifying as trans now. It's become, to me,
it's
trans.
It's a contagion. It's a social contagion.
Right. It's the new emo. Trans is the new emo, in my opinion.
But there was a trans-only hockey match, a hockey game a couple of months ago. And Flux mentioned it. Yeah, right there. Yeah, Flux mentioned that was funny to watch. It was good.
Well, and that's not completely surprising that would happen. Why? Because there's a biological difference there.
But Eric, you are right. It's the new emo craze, and ordinarily there's nothing wrong with these crazes. They come and go. Bell-bottom pants, tight jeans, I don't know, afros, crew tops. The problem is that these have lasting impacts on the individuals who are so affected, especially when it comes to the children. That it's not a phase without consequence compared to emo. You look back at the pictures and you say, "My goodness, I thought black eyeliner was cool." Now you're like, "My goodness, I look back and I thought top surgery was cool," and now I still have the consequences of a double mastectomy as a biological woman who was told by medical professionals that they can transition me to a biological male. I mean, it's.
This one's this is for me. I had CI operator Andrew Bustamante on. Great interview. Thank you. I kind of argued with the dude a little bit. I'm not always a supporter of everybody's CIA, but let me see. I don't know. Sean Ryan had him on. I'd have to see. Bustamante's an interesting guy. Let's just say he's a CIA officer, and he's actually a field guy. Like, he's one of those people who goes around and does cagey weird stuff. So
I don't know what Winston is thinking right now, but he's not moving.
He's contemplating.
Will I be covering the challenge? Someone asked, will I be covering the emergency challenge before the courts? I'll get the lawyers on. I think it's the Democracy Fund are the lawyers of file. I'll get them back on to talk about it sooner than later. Because right now we had the commission challenging of the invocation of the Emergencies Act in Canada. That was ratified by Commissioner Rouleau. There's also a court proceeding, which could in theory come to a different conclusion. Corn Pop says Viva dog licks their butts. Tell me something I don't know. That dog is the cutest one of the two. Did you see? I'm going to try to get Matt Taibbi on the channel, but
that'd be great.
Oh, okay, yes, that thing. And I had tweeted. I saw you tweeted later on it, but for those, David, you studied philosophy. I don't know if they cover this, but what that guy did, I forgot his name, Mahed, whatever.
Mehdi Hassan.
Yes, is the person. It's the perfect example of the Gish Gallop. If you watch what he did with Matt Taibbi, what rattling out, well, you do this, and Matt's just trying to keep.
Let me finish my question. He says
exactly, but here's the funny part. This son of a bitch is the perfect example of confession through projection. He wrote an article in the Atlantic about the Gish Gallop and how to defeat the Gish Gallop. He accused Trump and Putin and everybody of doing it, and then that's exactly what he was doing with Matt Taibbi.
I sent you the link to the watch. Eric, pull it up. It's the tweet. He bombards Matt Taibbi with no less than 3, maybe 4 points, contested points or contestable points. Let me finish my question.
Just trying to track, and he's just trying to track of what's going on. And
now I don't think Mehdi. I don't think Mehdi's going
Washington.
I'll get it up. No, it is so disingenuous, and I just love it because I think it is literally the frameable Gish Gallop of technique.
You talk a lot about the Election Integrity Project in the Twitter files, which Stanford and the University of Washington founded to monitor attacks on our elections. And you say some stuff about them that a lot of your critics say is not true, and that affects your credibility. You said the EIP was founded in response to the government dropping its proposal for a disinformation governance. Well, there you are. We're quoting you on screen. It wasn't. It was formed 2 years earlier. You suggest it was government funded, even though during the 2020 election that you're covering, it wasn't. You say they labeled 22 million tweets as misinformation in the run-up to the 2020 vote. They didn't. They flagged 3,000 election misinformation tweets for labeling, so you were only 21,997,000 off. And you also claim the EIP was. Let me finish the question. You can come back in. You also claim the EIP was part
finish the question.
The government cybersecurity and infrastructure agency, CISA, to censor Twitter, but you mix up CISA, CISA, a Homeland Security Agency, with the Center for Internet Security, the CIS, which is a non-profit. In fact, you added an A to CIS. I think people can see it there in brackets to make that false claim. It's just error after error, Matt, on just this one topic.
Error. But the other ones aren't. 22 million number came from their own report.
It came from a report in March. Do you know what the 22?
Anyway, but Gish Gallop, right? Is that not a perfect example? I mean, how many? What did you get? 5, 6? I mean,
it's a rhetorical technique in which a person in a debate attempts to overwhelm their opponent by providing an excessive number of arguments with no regard to for the accuracy or strength of those arguments. The problem is this: Mehdi might have had a point on a couple of them. And I had to go fact check this myself afterwards, where the phrasing of one of Matt Taibbi's tweets said, following the disinformation board, the EIP was set up. That is chronologically inaccurate because the disinformation board was 2022. The EIP was set up in 2020. But then with the Gish Gallop and the flooding, the CISA was a partner of the EIP. So he says you confuse CISA with CIS. First of all, I don't know the context in which he did that, but CISA, and I sent the screen grabs and the evidence in response. CISA was a partner of the Election Integrity Project. The Election Integrity Project did receive government grants. Another one of the things that he bombarded him with. And I'm still trying to figure out the 22 million tweets labeled, because I think
Matt actually responded to that, and he pulled up the documentation. If you go to his feed where he showed it highlighted, and but it is a disgusting technique where obviously Matt could not control it, and the guy's just fire hosing, and then Matt, he says, okay, well, that part and this guy's celebrating, he's dancing on it, he's tweeting everywhere, look how I caught him, look how I beat him, and it's disgusting. And he literally wrote a book on this. And yes, I actually bought the book because I'm like, okay, this is the way these people are thinking, I'm going to follow it.
But the best way to get out of that, though, if anybody's ever trapped in it, is just say, okay, you've given me X amount. Let's start with each one. Let's start with each one individually.
Control the clock.
And then that's when they'll start freaking out. Okay, well, this one obviously you got wrong because blah 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 blah, blah. And then it kills that because it gives them all the context to it.
What was I going to say about that?
And if they don't let you, then you start to go with oh geez, I forgot the term, but I hate to say ad hominems, but you just go with ad hominems right back and just say, what? Obviously you're too afraid for me to break anything down. Are you fearful of the truth? Are you trying to lie? And you just start attacking.
Yeah, he just machine gunned them down with
what's
mistakes.
What's amazing is that I want to see some of the things that I sent. Oh,
that's gotcha journalism, because in true journalism, if you do have like inconsistencies like that, they'll generally would send you those and say, hey, here are some inconsistencies we found, we're going to ask you about them. So if they want a real conversation about the consistencies, gotcha journalism is we're going to hit them with it, and then you got to tell us right in the moment why it's right. So
here, hold on. We have to do this. I'm obviously going to address this later on in my own chat, but in my own stream, Mehdi himself, it's the hypocrisy is that one of Mehdi's tweets where he does the gish galosh in his tweet.
Gallop.
It's all gish gallop, whatever it is. It's all garbage as well. He puts out one tweet. It says, do you agree with Trump on Mexican as rapists? Was fake. Send back Ilhan Omar and AOC. I'm not sure about that one. Neo-Nazis are very fine people. Fake. African shithole countries. Fake. Will any reporter ask? This is one of his tweets. So he does the gish gallop in his own tweets.
Gallop, like a horse. Gallop.
I'm going with gish gallop. Okay.
Your French is eking out.
It was so disingenuous, and the bottom line also, it's so disingenuous. The reason for which he's doing it. In one of the questions to Taibbi, he says, "Why didn't you disclose that some of the tweets involved nudes of Hunter Biden, which is unconsensual nudes, which violates Twitter's terms of service?" And Matt's is like, well, it doesn't matter what the content was. Like, it doesn't matter if they're non-consensual nudes. That's like revenge porn. The left now, and you're going to see the talking point is out there, is to retrospectively change the censorship of the Hunter Biden story from Russian disinformation that violated Twitter's hacked policy to non-consensual nudes revenge porn.
But it's also bullshit, because if it was Trump and they managed to get pictures of it, I guarantee it would all be out there, because that's newsworthy.
But forget the if it were Trump comparison.
Or anybody else.
They were soliciting for the pictures of him allegedly urinating on someone. They were begging people to find those pictures and send them.
But even still, even if it's not if it were Trump, it's not. I don't think it is revenge porn whatsoever, because this was not disclosed by a third-party recipient. This was the individual who voluntarily took the pictures, voluntarily abandoned the pictures.
With one exception, if there was another person in the picture who did not consent. Never mind if that person voluntarily did themselves, but
they bleeped that the person's face out. She wasn't a minor, people, from what I understand. So there's that. It wasn't even revenge porn. And even if it could be argued to be revenge porn, I think there are. I mean, I don't know how it worked actually with Hulk Hogan, where they deemed that there was no newsworthy aspect of it.
Yeah.
But the whole point is that they're going to try to turn this into revenge porn, when it wasn't passed off as revenge porn at the time, because in order for them to have done that, it would have meant acknowledging the legitimacy and authenticity of the computer. Nobody was interested in the naked photos. They were interested in the 10% for the big guy, which they all wrote. So it's such disingenuous reframing, but we're seeing it in real time right now. And Mehdi, he caught Taibbi off guard, because I'm sure Taibbi's going to say that. Not the strongest interview I've ever given, but the tactic, it's just the throw spaghetti against the wall. confuse and conquer, and it worked to some extent.
Well, and it's also hurtful because Taibbi is a pretty straight up person, kind of like Glenn Greenwald. Like, the guy had a real advantage with Taibbi because one, he's going to be polite. He's a thoughtful guy. He's not quick like that. And two, he's honest. He'll be like, yeah, that wasn't my strongest. Or I got that part wrong, versus somebody else that'll spit it right back at him. Like I would be interested to see the guy go against a machine gunner like Ben Shapiro. Could you imagine? People would be like trying to track the words, be like, slow down the film here, because Ben Shapiro would like rattle back his own laundry list, and it would be very interesting. But Taibbi, it's like, yeah, well, he's kind of an honest broker, so of course you're going to bully him.
Well, listen, let me get out of here, guys. It's 1:30, and I have some
I
unfinished
got to be
business
wrapping
go
up
to, so.
too.
I'm gonna go fishing with the kid. I'm not doing. Hold on, kids. I'm not gonna do a stream today. I've got the kids are off for Good Friday. So
awesome. So you're getting your Viva Frei moment here. Well, actually, that's appropriate timing. Where can everybody find you? What time is it right now in Korea, Jeff?
It is 2:30 a.m.
Woo!
Okay, so it is past happy hour, past closing time.
Oh, no, happy hour ends when I say happy hour ends. In fact, happy hour is going to continue because we're doing my boozy, drunken griftathon starting at 9 a.m. my time, 6 hours from now.
Get some water.
Legal advice is it public knowledge or even publicly available while you're in South Korea?
Well, I work for a Korean law firm here.
Okay, cool. By the way, I never appreciated South Korea is only accessible by plane because the only other border is with North Korea. I never appreciated that South Korea is a ocean locked and tyrannically locked country.
Yeah, we got our friends to the north, and you can take ferries from Japan, and there's like one ferry that runs between here and Vladivostok, but that's it.
How long is that ferry from Japan to South Korea?
They have from Fukuoka to Busan, where I am. It's about 3 hours for the express ferry.
That's nothing. We might be going to Newfoundland this summer. It's the shortest end is 6 hours, and if you take it to the St. John's, it's like 18 hours on a ferry.
Well, the airplane flight from Busan, where I live, to Fukuoka is the shortest airplane flight I've ever been on. It's like 40 minutes. It was the first time I never had level flight in a plane. It was like this, and then you just started doing this.
That's cool.
And it was really, really weird. But yeah, it's pretty close. Japan's pretty close to here.
Crazy. Nate, what do you have coming up?
Nothing. Just going to do Trump indictment, more,
Douglas Mackey.
XX stuff.
No, he's just going to ride off of his viral video and make all the money and everything else. Speaking of which, folks, if you haven't subscribed here, please consider doing so. I really, really, really appreciate it. Sorry to bury you, Jeff. You're a very handsome fellow. I probably should put myself down there. So go ahead and please subscribe. And it does make a difference. I am experimenting. I know some of you may hate shorts. Some of you might like shorts. Hopefully you do give them a chance. They're tightly edited, generated content, not just cut off of other stuff. I'm actually trying to put out fully developed shorts with news events talking about things like Alex Murdaugh's love letters, which just came in, which is and Stormy Daniels.
Just make sure you delete my name.
Athletes. Hey, well, you and Nick were talking about that earlier. I totally get it. And if you're interested, we also have Freeform Friday coming this afternoon on America's Untold Story. So until next time, I'll see some of you next Friday for the next legal panel.